Close your eyes for a second. You're exhausted. Not phone dead at 2 a.m. exhausted. Not end of a long week exhausted. You are bone deep, muscle screaming, dragged through existence exhausted. You've been walking since before sunrise. Your feet are bleeding. The thing you were chasing got away. The thing chasing you nearly didn't. And now you're sitting at the edge of a fire that someone else built, in a cave that smells like wet animal and old ash, and you are staring into the flames because there is absolutely nothing else to do. Then, the wind shifts. A thick wall of smoke rolls directly into your face. Your eyes water. Your lungs burn. And somewhere in that burning, something else happens. Something quiet. Something chemical. You feel it before you understand it. You don't have a word for it yet. You don't have a word for most things yet. But you feel the edges of the world soften slightly. You feel the fear turn down, just a fraction, like a volume knob on something that's been screaming inside you since birth. You don't analyze it. You're not built for analysis yet. But you remember it. And that memory, that single, wordless biological memory, is the real origin of smoking. Not agriculture, not ritual, not trade routes or colonial expansion, or the invention of the cigarette. Before any of that. Before all of that. This is the story of why humans actually started smoking, and the answer goes so much deeper than anyone ever tells you. Let's start with what the mainstream story gets wrong. The version most people know, the sanitized textbook version, is that ancient humans discovered certain plants could be burned and inhaled during ceremonies, that shamans developed rituals, that meaning was attached, that culture followed. It's a clean story. It's also incomplete in a way that fundamentally misunderstands what human beings actually are. Because before smoke was spiritual, it was neurological. Here's the part that changes everything. The human brain is not a rational instrument that occasionally makes irrational decisions. It's the opposite. It is a prediction engine running on millions of years of evolutionary code whose primary function, above all else, is to reduce uncertainty, to make the terrifying manageable, to convert chaos into pattern. In ancient life was almost nothing but chaos. Think about the cognitive load of existing before civilization. Every sound could be a predator. Every plant could be a poison. Every stranger was a potential threat. Every winter was potentially the last. The human nervous system under those conditions wasn't occasionally stressed. It was running in permanent overdrive, a permanent full-body, all-systems emergency. And then, the smoke came. Here's what the neuroscience actually shows, and this part is genuinely extraordinary. When certain organic compounds combust, they release chemicals that interact with the human nervous system in ways that are not subtle. Cannabis, when burned, releases delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, which binds directly to receptors that already exist in the human brain, the endocannabinoid system, named after the plant but not caused by it. Those receptors were there long before cannabis existed. They regulate anxiety, they regulate memory consolidation, they regulate the brain's threat detection system, the part that decides whether the rustling in the dark is something to run from or something to ignore. In other words, the human brain already had a built-in mechanism for turning down the noise of constant fear. Cannabis, or more accurately, the smoke from a burning cannabis plant, happened to be a key that fit that lock with uncanny precision. Not because nature designed it that way, because evolution is not a designer. Evolution is a relentless, indifferent accumulator of accidents that worked. The accident that worked here was this: ancient humans who sat near fires that happened to be burning certain plants felt better, calmer, more able to rest, more able to sleep, more able to tolerate the unbearable psychological weight of being alive in a world that was almost entirely made of things trying to kill them. in the ones who felt better, rested more, recovered more, made better decisions the following day. That's not a side effect, that's survival. But here's where the story takes a turn that almost nobody talks about, because it wasn't just the chemistry. There's a second mechanism running underneath the neurological, and it might actually be the more powerful of the two. In 2003, a research team studying early human social structures proposed something that had been quietly building in the anthropological literature for decades. The argument, roughly, is this: the most dangerous thing about ancient human life wasn't predators, it wasn't starvation, it wasn't disease, it was isolation. An individual human separated from the group died, not eventually, quickly. A broken ankle alone in the wilderness was a death sentence. The being cast out of the tribe, for whatever reason, was an execution without a blade. The terror of social exclusion was not metaphorical, it was existential. The brain treated it as a life-threatening emergency because in every material sense it was. And this is why the human brain is so spectacularly, sometimes exhaustingly, sensitive to social cues, why rejection physically hurts, why loneliness has measurable physiological effects that mirror chronic illness. The brain evolved to treat social belonging as a survival variable because it was, and shared smoke was one of the oldest technologies for creating it. Think about what happens when a group of people sit in an enclosed space and inhale a psychoactive substance together. Their heart rates synchronize, their threat detection systems downregulate in unison, their neurochemistry shifts in the same direction at the same time. They stop being a collection of individuals running separate fear programs. They become something more coherent, more trusting, more willing to act as a unit. Shared intoxication is, at its neurological core, a social bonding mechanism, one of the most effective the human brain has ever encountered. And in a world where social cohesion was the difference between surviving winter and not, the group that could build that kind of trust, fast, repeatedly, reliably, had a meaningful advantage over the group that couldn't. The smoke circle wasn't a party, it wasn't even a ritual, not at first. It was technology, primitive, accidental, completely unintentional, but technology, as functional as a spear, as load-bearing as a shelter. Now here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you, because if the real reason ancient humans started smoking was neurological self-regulation and social bonding, if the behavior was driven by deep biological need, not mere habit or pleasure, then the question isn't why ancient humans smoked. The question is why modern humans are so desperate to stop. We built a world that solved most of the physical dangers. The predators are gone, the famines are rarer, the winters are heated. The survival threats that ancient humans navigated every single day have been largely, if imperfectly, dismantled. But the nervous system doesn't know that. The nervous system is still running the same code it was running 100,000 years ago. It still treats uncertainty as danger. It still reads social rejection as a life-threatening event. It still generates the same crushing neurochemical pressure in the middle of a stressful workday as it did on the banks of a river in the Pleistocene. In nicotine, the compound in tobacco that binds to acetylcholine receptors and temporarily mimics the neurological state of calm, focused alertness, is extraordinarily good at telling that ancient nervous system that things are okay, just for a moment, just enough to keep going. This is not a defense of smoking. The modern delivery mechanism, the industrially manufactured cigarette, engineered over decades to maximize addiction while stripping out every shred of the ritual, the community, the meaning, is a product specifically designed to extract money from a biological vulnerability. That is not ancient wisdom. That is its direct opposite. But the drive underneath it, the hunger that the behavior is trying to feed, that is ancient, older than any civilization you've ever studied, older than agriculture, older than language. It is the oldest voice in the human brain, the one that says, too much, too loud, Too much uncertainty, too much fear. Make it quiet, just for a moment. Please. And here is where you have to sit with something. Every human being alive has that voice. Every person you have ever met is navigating some version of that same ancient pressure, the weight of uncertainty, the terror of exclusion, the exhaustion of being a nervous system in a world that never quite stops generating threats. Some people smoke, some drink, some run 10 kilometers before dawn, some work until they can't think about anything else, some disappear into screens or food or noise or silence. The specific behavior is almost irrelevant. What it is pointing at, always underneath, is the same thing it was pointing at 50,000 years ago, when your ancestors sat at the edge of a fire in a cave and felt the world softened at the edges and decided, without words, to sit a little closer to the smoke. We've been looking for relief from the noise of being alive for as long as there has been anyone alive to feel it. The methods change. The need doesn't. Next time you watch someone step outside at a party, lighter in hand, eyes already softening before the flame even touches the tip, you're not watching a bad habit. You're watching 100,000 years of human beings trying to carry something too heavy and finding a way to put it down, just for a moment, just long enough to breathe.